Amy Spurling, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks so much for having me.
It is a real pleasure. Where are you joining me from?
I am in Boston and, usual hoping for spring soon.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, definitely can be cold this time of year. Normally, I'm in the Salt Lake City area in Utah, also cold. I'm
Yeah.
actually coming from Croatia today, where I am for business right now. It's also very cold, but it's a pleasure to be sitting down with you. And today we're going to be talking about employee well-being and engagement, which is a topic near and dear to my heart, as I know it is for you. And I'm really
Mhm.
thrilled to have a chance to explore this topic with you today. As we get started, I wanted to share Amy's bio with everybody. Amy Spurling is the founder and CEO of Compt HR software that revolutionizes employee benefits through personalized, inclusive, and tax-compliant lifestyle spending accounts. With a distinguished background as a three-time CFO and two-time COO, Amy is dedicated to fostering symbiotic growth between companies and their employees. Under her leadership, Compt has become a pivotal tool in enhancing employee satisfaction and productivity with LSAs. With over 2 decades of experience in venture-backed startups, Amy has driven over 200 million in financing and successfully led 2 acquisitions to close. Her expertise and innovative approach have made her a leading voice in the HR and tech industries. Amy holds an MBA from Simmons School of Management and a BA from the University of Rochester. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you, Amy. Anything you would like to add by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much covers it in a snapshot.
Okay, very good. Well, let's dive on in to the topic today and maybe start with just your kind of high level overview of why employee well-being and engagement is important to you generally.
Sure. I mean, I think we all spend a very large portion of our lives in our jobs. And that's
Yeah.
where, we spend the majority of the people that we spend the majority of our time with, the more like that's just how we live in this world. And so if employee well-being isn't something that is a focus for companies and a recognition of that, you just ignore the fact that these are humans working for you. And I think that's really important that companies take that into account and create space for people to be their whole selves, but also creating space for people to manage their own well-being in a way that matters to them because I'm a founder. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a physical coach. I am not
Mm.
I should not be prescribing vitamins to people. Like, should be none of these things. People need to work with professionals on that, but I need to create space for people to actually have the ability to do that themselves because that is part of just being a human and taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at employees, as the holistic individuals that they are, it is really important. And, I think gone are the days where we can talk about, check yourself, check your personal life at the door. Just, when you're at work, do work. That's the kind of the old mantra that certainly was more prevalent in past generations.
Yep.
And the reality is everything tends to bleed together anyways. Maybe it's
Yep.
the reality of the modern kind of knowledge work era, technology bleeding, work life and personal life together. All of that certainly makes for a messy, complicated work
Yep.
integration, work life kind of balance scenario. And so we have to acknowledge it. And we have to acknowledge, just like you said, the humanness of the people that are part of our organizations that we work with. And if we can't do that, I mean, first of all, I think there's a moral and ethical like
Right.
imperative
There. Right. There's that
for us to do
piece.
it. So there's that. But even if we set that aside, I mean, there's a business imperative. There's a
Yep.
clear business case for this. If we don't do it, we're not going to get the best of our people. We're not going to attract and
Correct.
retain great people, but we're also not going to get the best from our people because they're not going to bring their best self to the work that they do, and they're not
Well,
going
and
to
they
be as creative and
can't.
innovative.
Right. Like they can't bring their best selves to work. Like that old model of check yourself at the door and you're just here and you're going to get your job done and you should be happy to have a job worked in theory, I don't think it actually worked, but in theory, it worked at a time period where one parent stayed home and took care of the kids
Right.
and made sure everything was taken care of. And you could live off of one income. And that one income was like, look, I don't have a family. As far as you know, like this is me doing my job. It just assumed a different economy. It assumed a different
Yeah.
expectation of how marriages worked and partnerships worked. It assumed a different way that kids were going to be treated and the involvement that parents were going to have with their children. Like that worked well when
All of it.
people were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I was on the golf course when my kid was born." You bragging? Like, what is that? Like, gross. Like, that's not the world that we live in, and that's not the world I want to live in. I want to encourage this behavior where people do feel like, hey, I can take time out to go. Like parental leave in our company is the same regardless of if you're physically having the child or if it's your partner having the child, because I want good parents. I want good partners. And some of that is a little altruistic because I know if, the men on my team in particular go and take their full 12 weeks and they can spread it out and do part-time and whatever, like if they do that, their partner can then have somebody who is a full-time partner with that child, is not mommy's little helper, is not like, well, I don't know what bath time is. No, you know when bath time is. Deal with it. Like just be part of, the equal parent thing. And you have to have situations and structures that support families in that way. And family can mean people without children, it can mean anybody. And so allowing for that type of support and recognition that lives work differently means that those people can then dial in when they are at work because they have the space to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And just anecdotally, and to share kind of my own personal experience, and also just because I had a conversation about this. Now it's evening for me right now because I'm in Croatia,
Yeah.
so there's a time difference. It's morning for you, but I was at lunch today with folks, and I, I do consulting work, but I'm also a professor, and so I'm fortunate enough to have summers off and flexibility,
Right.
and a lot of autonomy, but and I have six children. My wife is also a professor, so she also has flexibility and autonomy. But we navigated having six
Yeah.
children at a time when paternity leave wasn't a thing, and
Right.
so and so fortunately, I was able to be around and to help out and do those things regardless, which was great. But that's not something that most people had at
Right.
that time, right? So I was fortunate, and my wife was fortunate for that. But we were talking at lunch today because here in Croatia, there's just a mandatory 1 year leave for everyone when they
Yeah.
have a child,
Yeah.
and in many places in Europe, it's like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a different mindset. It's a different there's just a different priority given to it, right? In
Right.
these societies than in the US context.
Yep.
Um, that's just the reality. You can assign whatever value to that you want, whoever's listening, and whatever your own political and economic and whatever persuasions you assign to that. But that's the reality, and it has all sorts of implications, and
Yep.
I certainly have valued my ability to be very engaged with my family and active and involved, and that's just one aspect of you know this lifestyle accommodation and
Right.
everything that we're talking about. There's obviously a lot of others, and not everyone has children, or there's
Right.
lots of other things that could be part of this conversation. But since we're talking about that right now, I just thought I would share, like, it really is important. And in the US, this isn't something we've always really let out on. But
Ever.
there are forward-thinking
Ever.
companies. Yeah, there are
Th-
forward-thinking companies that are really doing much better on
Yep.
this and making a big difference. So I definitely applaud those when I see those, because I do think
Well,
it matters. I think it makes a big difference.
it does. It's hard though for companies too, because you're looking at like, I mean, our childcare system doesn't line up with our work system.
Yeah,
Kids get out of school at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Well, work doesn't end at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And so like companies are trying to navigate this. And I do think a lot of remote work helps with that, but not everybody can
yeah,
be remote and not every company wants to be remote. And so figuring out when you've got systems that don't coordinate or work together, that's very difficult. Like after school programs are very expensive. And so can't afford that. What are you supposed to do with your kids? It's not like your 7-year-old can hitchhike home and just take care of themselves, like, or they shouldn't at least. And so
Yeah.
figuring out like, all right, how do you even navigate this? And then you start having multiple children and it gets cost prohibitive very, very quickly too. Like
Yeah.
the systems that we have just don't line up to support people being able to work, in a way that can also support their family life. And so everybody's kind of doing this dance and trying to figure out, and companies are trying to lean in, but there's no, like in the countries where you do have a year of time off, it's not all paid for by companies. That is paid for by the government. Like that is
Yeah.
part of like the social network there. You look at like Denmark, which has a very long leave as well. Those are subsidies so that
Yeah.
companies can afford to do that. And so figuring out like how do we grow better humans? Well, you need support for that. And it's an interesting like dynamic as you look at how these countries navigate in different ways. And I'd love to see more
Yes.
paid leave or mandatory paid leave in the US because that is a huge issue. Like we might be the only first world nation that doesn't have mandatory paid leave when kids are born. That's wild to me.
Yeah, it is to me too.
Like
Yeah.
I don't have children. I don't have children and it bothers me. Like I'm not, this is not a personal thing for me where I wish I had more paid leave for myself. This is like I want good little humans being raised and they need support.
Yeah.
Like this is like we need to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so there's all these different components, right, that can
Yeah.
lead to employee well-being, this being part of that. But what you do, with your company, with these lifestyle savings accounts, is a really important piece. And maybe you can talk about how that connects here. So, how do
Sure.
LSAs contribute specifically to overall employee well-being and engagement, and why is this important to organizational success?
Well, I think that the reason I wanted to start the company, like we started 8 years ago before like LSAs was even a thing. Like we were working on like what is the term and like did a whole dance for years around that. Uh, Trying to figure out, there were all these point solutions in the market. You could get childcare, you could get food delivered, you could get dry clean, like all these things. And each thing that you bring into your company and offer to your team, maybe you get 2 to 3 to 5% utilization. It's very low. And I was like, well, that's a lot of money. I'm a former CFO. A lot of money. Nobody's happy. HR is miserable. It's not taxed correctly. Yeah, messy. I don't like mess. And it doesn't work internationally either, because then you start branching into this whole other thing. It's like, well, if we're going to spend this money and this is compensation for people, how do we create a space where people can actually be treated like adults and make their own decisions? And so when companies, wellness is the predominant way that companies do this, is thinking about a lifestyle spending account for wellness in particular. But instead of saying you can use this gym or a gym period, or you can use it for yoga or whatever, they say this is for wellness. This is what I'm comfortable with. Like it's for your physical wellness, or maybe it's your mental health as well, or maybe some companies include financial wellness. Like it's for your wellness here, go do it. People are already spending money in ways that they want to be supported. And so this gives the employees a mechanism to actually get supported in benefits in a way that matters to them. And it's not like, okay, I guess I'll sign up for the gym. I'm never going to go, but maybe I'll go once this year. Now the company's paying for it and you're not going to use it anyways, and drives zero health outcomes. That's not useful. Whereas if somebody needs access to GLP-1s or a therapist or nutritionist or vitamins or whatever the thing is, I get a lot of hiking gear. That's what I do. And so my REI bills are being covered by my wellness stipend. But it allows people to all be different, and companies can stay out of it. Companies do not have to figure out, oh, well, you're really into this one thing, rock climbing, whereas no one else is. Like, why are we involved in this? Like, as HR, that's a lot to put on an HR team. Like, figure out what every single person wants, their wants and needs and hopes and desires, and meet that. And by the way, you're a 10,000 person company. Come on, that's silly. Like, let people be adults and just say, this is the sandbox I'm comfortable with, and I want to support your wellness. Go do what you want to do.
Yeah. So having these spending accounts, then describe how that tends to work and
Sure.
uh, your experience with some cool, innovative ways that companies are using that to support their employees' well-being.
Sure. So the way it works is that, a company sets their budget, kind of what their guardrails are, the more broad the use case, like a lot of this is taxable income. So broad
Right.
use cases tend to go very well with employees. So they may use it for a family gym membership or swim lessons or, sometimes the after school sports because that's helping their kids stay, active. Or they may use it for their own gym, like however they want to use it. And companies will put like, hey, it's got to be for your physical wellness and just for you. You can put guardrails on it if you want. But employees then go and spend the money wherever, is appropriate, upload a receipt, get reimbursed through payroll, pretty straightforward, taxed or not, depending on where they're located, what's appropriate to tax, what you don't have to tax. And it just makes it very easy and seamless, which is why we've had over 90% employee participation for 5 years. Like just about everybody's going to use
Which is
this.
incredible in
It's
comparison, like you
insane.
said, to those other programs, right?
Exactly. You're just going to get much more involvement. And then it's a much more meaningful benefit. Like if employees are not using your benefit, why are you spending money on it? It doesn't make sense. And so I'm a big, but like if I see a company that was, if they were in the 5% range, we have no one ever who has been in that range, be having a conversation, be like, this is not for you. Like, don't spend money on this. That's silly. Don't do that. Your team is not working for them. We've never had anybody like that, but that's something that we keep an eye on is the employee participation. We have seen a lot of really cool ways that companies have leaned in or creative ways that employees have used it. During COVID, we had somebody who had a family stipend, was the stipend the company had set up. And it was like the first couple of weeks into lockdown in the Bay Area. And this poor guy was home. Kids were home trying to figure out homeschooling. You can't leave your house. And his hot water heater blew. And the
Don't
poor guy
know.
now has no hot water. And so he used his family stipend to help get a new hot water heater. You're not going to have a hot water heater like benefit in a company for the one person every 10 years that might need it. Like, but that was what he needed at that moment in time. And it worked perfectly. HR didn't have to do anything. It was just seamless, which was really cool. Right now, what we see a lot of is groceries, a lot of groceries. Food is expensive. Feeding
Yeah.
families is expensive. People need help with that. And this is a way where that has dialed all the way up as people are like, look, I need help with that. That's where I'm at. Like it's not I feel like going skydiving. It's the day-to-day needs that people
The
need help
essentials.
with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we see a lot of that right now.
Yeah. Well, this is just fascinating and I love it. Amy, I note the time. I need to let you go. You have a hard stop coming up here. But as we wrap up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word for today.
Sure. So they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Amy Spurling at Amy Spurling on LinkedIn, or of course, our website, compt.io, and we're happy to chat. Just excited to see how things evolve over time. I think it's really interesting to see when employee-driven benefits are front and center for companies. You can see companies navigate kind of economic uncertainty in a totally different way that is really supportive to both employees and company growth. And that's what's really exciting for me to kind of watch from the sidelines and see how these companies kind of navigate and their teams navigate. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Amy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Amy and her team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.